possibilities for Borealis. So I'm concerned about your own personal safety, and then it's also like the safety at work for, you know, not so much the company, but for the people. Because the names are there, and then I think the organizations, their names, or their name and email addresses are also like listed out.
Yeah.
Which are like, you know, like any sort of like generally messengers are sent out to protect the names, you know, like the email addresses specifically. So that's where I was kind of looking at that too. So there's your personal safety first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
There's also digital safety for the individuals here at the organization. And then the other layer of that, like Lena said, is how the recipient of the messages to the grantees. Now, I don't have a relationship, you know, specifically to those individuals, and like you and Lena can probably speak to who those organizations are and what relationships how we're related to them. But so that's just my piece of where we were looking at this. And then also, I think Kat and Jure, I don't know, Jure, if they've received, Lena, do you know, have they received any sort of feedback or comment?
Not that I know of. This is just conjecture on how it could be received, and that's why it was the last piece. That's why we started with what the most important piece is, or we want to make sure that your accounts are secure and that we're doing everything that we can to support you, and that we're taking steps to try to help support getting a recovery and securing your accounts. And to make sure that we're doing everything on that front, and then let us know if anything that we can do as far as like your personal safety. I know we're very limited because we're not actually in the state of New York, and there might not be much that we can do. But if there are steps that we can take to help you feel more secure, then please let us know. But again, I don't want to lose focus in just that one piece of it. It's really making sure that you know that we support you. We are not trying to silence you. That is not what we want to do at all.
And the other thing I was thinking about too, like, might there be a way, I know Zainab's not here, but might there be a way, Puzzle, like, instead of using email for that platform, is there a way to message using some of the platforms that we do have?
Like Slack or something like that?
Well, I'm like a coordinated message, even like, what is it called, MailChimp, or, like working with communications, like, here's Puzzle's leading like this conversation. She's highly creative, even if it, like, how do we bridge the two? I don't know, my wheels are just spinning, but how do we use some of your gifts to message about things that are important in these times? But Puzzle, I would say, just in terms of future emails, we would ask that you not send them out, broadly to all of the grantees and things like that, unless it goes through CAP for sort of that vetting process.
Okay.
And then I know your leave, you're out for the 6 weeks, which I believe has you returning in July. Is it July? My brain, sorry, 2 hours of sleep. We can confirm the dates, but has you returning. And so I really, really, in the heart of hearts, would like you not to really engage anything perceived as being work related to work email.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to just touch on real quick is that where I got all those names from was actually Basecamp. So everybody is already on Basecamp with all of those access to all of those emails. I think what I might have done is cross funds. So I added both CTPF with the bail fund, but CTPF has access to everybody's emails within CTPF, and Spark Justice Fund has access to all the emails within Spark Justice Fund. But I guess what I did was cross them, not thinking I could have sent them separately as well. So that's one thing. The other thing about digital security is the reason why, I'm 100% in agreement and in understanding how this went wrong. It's not that it was wrong, but that there was probably a better way to do it. I guess I was moving on, probably more fair. But yeah, but
Puzzle? Are you still there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just needs a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Just needs to take a pause, and that's fine. Take your time. We understand it. Lena and I were just talking about we can't find the words to speak in every moment, so take your time.
so the other part of it is the digital security part. And this, Lena, I don't know if you remember when our last staff retreat that I attended, not the one in Texas. Where did we go? Was it New Orleans? I want to believe it was in New Orleans. Do you remember it being in New Orleans?
No, I didn't go to New Orleans, so I think that might have been a conference. We had one in Minneapolis, and we had one in
Minneapolis.
New York.
Okay, so that was Minneapolis. So I don't know if you remember in Minneapolis, we were working also together to try to figure out what else Borealis needed on the business side, I guess, if you want to say it like that. But I had mentioned digital security. This has been something that I continue to mention to staff. One, at that time in Minneapolis, I had mentioned it because being at the Fordfoundation, before I was outcast and blackballed, I was talking to the manager of the tech department, and he was telling me that just a year ago that the Fordfoundation digitally had got hacked by China and Russia and put all of their staff members' security at risk, and said that had they not had billions of dollars to quickly spend to clean the system out, that they had to literally wipe out the whole system and rebuild it from scratch, something that could not be hacked or wasn't easily to be hacked, as well as making sure to educate each staff member on certain things like phishing messages or this or that. And I remember saying, as well as hearing him say, that organizations, that he feels bad for organizations who don't have that kind of money because they are at risk. I remember talking in a meeting, and it was Kat, I don't remember who else was in this meeting, but Kat was in this meeting, Zainab was in this meeting. I'm not 100% sure who else was in this meeting. This was maybe about 6 months ago. This was prior to my testimony, so it was around that time, but it was before it. So it could have been any time last year in the year, earlier in the year, or maybe mid-year rather. And I remember mentioning, actually it was right before the testimony, but it was after my birthday, which is September, because people had taken me, because I was already so swooped out about all this digital stuff at that time. She had taken me to a spy museum in Manhattan. And when we went there, she seen that a lot of stuff that I was spooked out about wasn't me just being paranoid. This spy museum tells you exactly who's watching you, how the big companies, all the social media accounts, how they have access to your information. I found out there that the United States, this is not being talked about, but that the United States had a Russian spy in the CIA for 23 years, and it was just discovered in 2017. And so all of their secrets were leaked. And so that, amongst other things, with like hacking and stuff, like it was such overwhelming information. And I remember Zainab not taking it seriously. I remember offering to that staff, because we operate digitally in 100%, that we all go to the Spy Museum as a field trip or whatever you want to call it, retreat or whatever, so that we all can learn about this, not just personally, but how much we are at risk. And one of the reasons why is because I was also constantly getting messages, as well as other staff, Lena, if you remember, from them asking us to do favors and perpetrating as if they were Maggie or Ricky or anybody in admin. And I almost fell for one of those messages, and they posed as Maggie asking me to buy 5 $100 gift cards, and I'm looking at the email, responding to it, because she said it's a secret for staff, and whoever's the new staff member, she wanted to give them this and give them that. And I honestly, I just didn't, it's not that I didn't think it could happen, I just have never had that happen to me. And I'm thinking that this is Maggie who's asking me to do this. I had just started working here as well, so I wasn't really sure. And it's just at the store, I went all the way to the store to make those purchases, and the store flagged me like, no, you got to pay in cash for gift cards. And I was like, what? This is for my arguing with the store. Like, this is for my job. Like, y'all hindering me from doing my job. And then on an email, I had sent the message back. And when I had told about it, because the person was like rude and didn't even care about the experience, was just like, oh, well, try going over here. And then he was like, I don't think that's your president. And when I took a closer look, I was obviously feeling foolish, and I had to alert staff. That's when Danny started to alert everybody that this is what's taking place. Now, the other thing is that I do recall Maggie saying on numerous occasions that once Borealis started to fund Black Lives Matter, that she started to get a lot of hate messages and threats from white supremacists, to the point that she was in fear for her life. Probably in the same way that I'm feeling right now. And that's why she had to take our I believe our emails and numbers off. I wasn't here at that time, but that's what was said at the staff retreats and stuff. And so how does that impact Borealis, seeing as though prior to me being here, it was already an issue to fund Black Lives Matter, who more are about abolition. We do fund abolition. I am not my job, I am my experience. What that means is I use my experience to influence my job and my work, to do the best work that I can do in this space. However, outside of actually working, I'm also a part of the formerly incarcerated community, which I use my social media account to update and educate. This is a role that I've always had inside, and reconnecting just made me feel more into a community, because it's like when I came home after being missing for 11 years, the community I had, I lost. So seeing as though this is happening to me now, and then hold on.
Okay, take your time.
So the other thing is that these services that had gotten put into place post what I experienced with the whole normal jails thing, there's a lot of things that I've left out of the email, and obviously I do understand there's some things I could have curved a lot better, but regardless of what I needed to say, how it could go, so future reference, I'm not going to send the email without sending it through CAT or HR. But if you were to compare the two emails, it is slightly different. It is slightly different in the sense that I feel like a lot of information have been extracted from me through Borealis, and it's making me wonder: are we under attack and being infiltrated as a team? Is this not about me per se, but as a team? And that we have to do a deeper look into the staff members that are here to figure out what exactly is going on, what are the motives, why certain measures weren't being taken in place, why certain questions need to be asked, and also even having the coaching from D, to constantly have these conversations with somebody who is a 20-year former activist herself, as she said. For 20 years she was in the field, and then she transferred to the healing work. But obviously she was put in place to help to aid me in what I was going through. And a lot of times it helped, and lately it hasn't. And why? Because everything as it come into play, that I have to go over every single detail to figure out, how did I get to this point? And while I'm in this point, why was my vision so blurred that I didn't realize I've been at this stage since October? It's just been that a case was building around me this whole time. Because when you traumatize, your mind is clouded, and in the process of trying to heal, that's my focus. I'm not going to think that people are sitting here and scheming on me, not helping, or whatever the case is. But I know that Dee's instructions to me were two things that pop out to me that she would constantly say, is that social media is going to be the death of me. And at first I take it as, I know I need to get off of social media, because consuming my time there too much, trying to educate was highly exhausting. And I had taken 2 whole weeks off of mainly Facebook and Instagram, because Instagram, you choose who you follow it. Facebook was, again, just strictly 100%. Well, so I thought, formerly incarcerated people, but I realized that was draining me. I took 2 weeks off and recently got back on, because I started to feel like my life was threatened, and that these are people who physically know me, and should anything happen, they will tailor the story of who I really am, who I always was. And the other thing that was said was that that I'm alone and I would be annihilated. That these people it would be easy for them to annihilate me, basically. That was said in the beginning, and it was recently said again. And there's just a lot of things that had transpired that I'm very unsure of.
So, Puzzle, thank you for sharing that, and kind of going back to October, and this is before my time, of course, with BOREALIS. Let me ask you 2 things. So it sounds like I think I understand from Lena that you want to discontinue like the conversations with D, like as one of your supports at this time.
I mean, here's the thing with the conversations with D, who was referred by Tamia, who Tamia is a whole nother story, but this is the reality of the situation, and I have no other choice but to talk about it, because if people are after me, then they're gonna do what they're gonna do, but they're gonna have to retract their steps, because at the end of the day, even the conversation with D, as I go back into my messages, it's like, yes, D was there, but there was a lot of times that I needed D that D was not there, and those were at like breaking points. Was unavailable for whatever the reason is. It just has been a pattern. The last time we spoke, maybe D is going through her own thing, but she did say that I need wraparound services, and that's when you, her, and me, whatever, however you say it, that we were all in a call together, and that she would refer me to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
The therapist that she referred me to, now I spoke to that therapist because I was in serious need to understand why I keep going up and down and up and down and up and down. No matter how much I'm trying to work on, and I understand healing is a process, but something, obviously when you feel like you need more services. So even though I felt how I felt about therapy, because most of it is capitalistic, they don't really care what you have to say. They just want to take your money and let you talk, and good job. Hopefully you feel good tomorrow. But this I felt like was more intuitive. I felt like it was more genuine. I did feel at the time that it was helpful, and I still feel like it was helpful in the sense that it was different from a lot of therapy that I've had. But now I'm questioning what kind of therapy this actually was, because this is a face that I haven't seen, a name that I don't have the full name of, consent forms that I have not signed, and dealing with the chakra and energy. I'm not sure what kind of therapy that is, where you gotta ask me my name, my birthday, my mom's name, certain kind of questions that's questionable. And I think for me, what was really helpful more than anything else was how we ended it off by rating the levels of how do I rate my future, how do I rate my past, how do I rate my job, how do I rate my relationship with my girlfriend, with my family. And what came out of that is a scale. And so from me doing that scale, I felt like, wow, I'm looking at the paper like, holy shit, I rated my past at the lowest, which was either a 1 or a 2. And so what that told me, everything that I needed to know, is that is what's intertwined with the way that I'm feeling, that I have to let go of the past.
And the puzzle, just to clarify, when you're talking about therapists, that this is a separate person than D, right? This is the person that she referred to you to. I'm sorry, that was having you do.
Yeah.
They did. Okay. And then is that a person that you're continuing to work with?
I initially I planned on continuing to work with, but after all this stuff started happening and certain messaging that I started to get from D that was slightly different, like, you know, like I'm going through this thing, but she's like basically like, you know, just unplug from BOREALIS. That's fine. I already know that's a great idea, but like also just don't reach out to anyone, not even her. Just enjoy time with my girlfriend, because the time that we living in right now, anything's liable to happen. And in the last conversation that I had with her after I spoke to Lena, you know, it made me wonder if Lena, I don't believe this, but it made me wonder if Lena, if you had a conversation with her after we spoke.
I haven't spoken to D.
Right. It was within a half an hour of time. That's why I said this is not what I believe, but it did make me wonder, because I'm like, that's the only way that she can know to answer me the questions that she asked me. And then all of a sudden, at the same time, within that same half an hour, Tamir texts me. It just was way too timely. Like this MacBook is hacked. The phones, I have them off right now. But you know, the fact that there were certain detailed questions, and it was already, I had already mentioned to Lena that I just felt like, you know, when you tell somebody call me anytime, of course it's not like 1 in the morning you're gonna call me. But, you know, if I'm experiencing a crisis and you just keep saying, all right, we'll talk this time, we don't talk that time, we talk this time, then we don't talk that time, and then days go by, I'm experiencing a crisis and dependent that somebody's going to help me get out that crisis. But, of course, I have to resort back to now being in prison where there is nobody but you to be broken down and built back up. You know, so those are skills that can't go nowhere, because those are survival skills. But it's not survival skills that I want to obviously rely on for the rest of my life, right?
Right.
But
yeah, and I hear you on that, and that was part of my question too. And you know, acknowledging the space, and then also like the urgency of is what's happening in that moment, which, you know, feeling like that extreme fear, and then 2 or 3 days later, you know, still feeling like it just increases if you don't have any sort of relief or conversation. But Puzzle, I was going to ask too, do you have anybody in that space to provide some of that support and direction for you, or is that something that you're looking for to sort of develop? Who is your support system in those moments? You know, just because I don't want you to feel like you're alone, and I also don't want you to feel like there's because one thing I think I hear all the staff really, really love you. So I think even just if you're not emailing, like people want to hear from you. They want to know that you're fine. They want to know that you're feeling safe, especially after this incident. So I don't think, and who you contact is based on who you trust, right? But are there other supports that you have for those moments?
I mean, there is.
Moment?
I mean, there is. It's just people closest to me I've been dumping this on them for a while since I've been home.
Okay.
So after a while, you know, it's energy draining for them, and it's not fair to them either because they're not equipped, one, to deal with this level of trauma that I had experienced. And then the continuation of it, and then the stuff that, you know, is also just to talk about and have somebody hear you, but like now it's better than it was, but before it was like every day, you know, and then the other thing that I just wanted to say is just like I said, you know, after I've spoken to Lena about Dee not being available, half an hour later, Dee tells me that she's upstate, she don't have reception, and that she's not trying to ignore me. And we got on the phone. She asked me certain questions that I had a conversation about, and I just felt like it was too coincidental. And there's just, like I said, two things that was repeated. It's one, social media is going to be the death of me, which is a strong statement, and that you know, if I'm not connected to any organizations, that it'd be easy to assassinate me. In other words, annihilate me. Is the word she used. So I got off the phone when she asked me a question of am I connected to any organizations outside of Borealis? After that, I did not feel like, I said the phone is hot. I don't want to answer that question. And because I no longer trusted to answer any questions, there's a lot of people who's been identified, and I don't even know how close others are, but I know how close others are. And after that, we gotten off the phone with her saying, I'm here if you need me, to reach out, and all of this and all that. And about half an hour later, I'm like, I don't want to believe this. I don't want to feel like this. And so I wanted to ask her more about the question around me needing to be in contact with other organizations. And I had texted her and asked her, I had texted her and told her, is she busy right now, or let me know if she has any time today, because I wanted to ask her a question. I didn't tell her what the question was, but I wanted to ask her a question around what she had previously asked me. And I got no response. And the next day, I called her, and I got no response. So that kind of confirmed stuff for me, because I had also let her listen to a video that I had did on Facebook Live, where her comment to it was basically saying that social media would be the death of me, but I just felt like I have to alert my people, know, the people who physically know me, know that there's creeps on my page, and then there's creeps on their page, and all that they have done to stifle this song that I had made just tells me that I'm more powerful than I think I am, you know, and I'm not afraid of them, and that a lot of accounts have been identified, and after you know this, there'll be more that I will identify. So there's just a lot of things, and so I have to track back to the therapy, and then I have to question everything that happened during therapy when the lady tells me that she wasn't prepared to have therapy session. She usually just tells people how she operates, and it's on them if they want to do it, which is fine. But I was obviously experiencing a lot that I need to get out, so it kind of just flowed like that. She paused me and asked me if she can, I don't know, go away from the phone to do whatever she had to do, or get whatever she had to get. And I didn't think anything of it, but I am now. And because there's just a lot of, what's my sign, what's my birthday, what's my mother's name, I don't know what those stuff have to do with therapy. And also going back from D and then go back to Mia and think around what time did this start to happen. Obviously after my testimony. When did my account start? Did I realize they had gotten infiltrated? They have been infiltrated since October after my testimony. And certain questions that Tamia asks, I understand that she has a social work background, but when you're dealing with social workers, I've also worked in social work coming home when I first came home, and I learned a lot of how they operate, and they try to ask more so questions around, when did you start feeling like this? How often maybe you feeling like this? Not where you live, where do you go to your dentist? Does your girlfriend live with you? These are intrusive questions, and I could get to Kathleen as well. These are very intrusive questioning, and it's as I'm recalling a lot of the questioning, it's very alarming, and these are pinpoint questions. These are investigative questions. These are not social work questions. Investigators want to know where you live. If you mention that you need a root canal, have you ever experienced this, or where do you go to the dental office? And being able to have a certain level of naivety. I don't know how the hell, sometimes I don't know how the hell I have so much naivety with all that I've experienced, but still keeping the purity of myself, had maintained that, sometimes blur me from seeing the wicked in others. But even with the Kathleen thing and that whole breath work, which I never downplayed breath work because it's helpful even in this moment as I'm able to get through this conversation when it was hard at some points too. That breath work helps, so that's never gonna go away. That was great and that was helpful, but this is again, and I had mentioned to me, I also mentioned to D when they asked why I would not continue breath work, and that was because I felt like Kathleen was prying and prying and prying, and I would give out lots of information. Why? Because I want to heal. I want it to be removed. I want to move past it. I want to figure out, why am I feeling like this so that I cannot feel like this? And in the process, it's like information is extracted and nothing happens. We just do breath work. So why do you want to know this information? Why do you need the video for the incident that happened? You're going to say you're going to help and then you don't help. You say nothing happened. So why did you need that video? Because my vehicle is identified in that vehicle, and if I'm feeling like people are out to get me, that's a lot of information of my personal life that has been leaked.
Right. Yeah, and I think Leah had shared that you didn't want to continue with Kathleen as well. But I'm just wondering, puzzle, like, is there, I want you to be able to feel safe, like, with somebody that you trust with kind of like the next step of your healing, and it sounds like the scale that the person, whoever mentioned, was beneficial for how you are looking at, like, healing yourself and then also studying, like, whatever your next priorities look like. Are you wanting, how can we support that? Like, are you wanting to look at supporters that you like vet and that trust, and that you know 100% you can trust people to be able to support and talk to you about these things, so that you don't feel like you're kind of walking alone? Or is there something else that you want, like Lena and I, to do in looking at, like, resources and people that you can connect with authentically? And I don't want to show up in a space that feels intrusive or makes things further unsafe, but I just want to ask about that additional support for you.
Yeah.
Because it's just that, you know, like you said, you're you know, talking to people that you said like they feel exhausted, so then they like stop listening. But you're still, you know, but I'm still talking. Like I need who's hearing me. I just don't want you to be like you don't have that support from somebody.
And you can always contact me. And I want to circle back to the conversation that we had on Monday. The content of our conversation is and always will be confidential. The reason why I shared that you do not want to contact Kathleen or Dee is because that was a recommendation after we received your email yesterday. One of the recommendations was, oh, should we reach out to Dee? And I said, no, I don't think so, because
Right.
at this time she's not sure she wants to continue to work with Dee, and she no longer wants to work with Kathleen, so I don't recommend reaching out to them.
Yeah, and then their contracts too, to be honest, Puzzle, too, their contracts are also, we're looking at, do we renew them because they expire? So it's like, well, you know, who might actually be using this, and do we continue it, or do we, you know, like let it go? That's, I did want to put that in the conversation too, of the reason for that knowledge.
Yeah, I also want to circle back to something because, you know, this may be just hard to believe. This may be you don't want to believe. I went over it a lot of times. I don't want to believe, but I also don't want to be nobody's fool. And there's way too many signs and symbols. And the other thing is that to track back to Tamia, who all these other people are in connection with or have been referred to by, that one of the trainings that I was to go to, and Kat knows this, I don't know if she ever mentioned it to HR outside of Tamia, but one of the first trainings that Tamia had referred me to was some Illuminati cult stuff. And even to have said how horrible my experience was, for her to suggest that she gives my name to these people that I'm reporting on them, I was like, why is my name important? You could say that somebody had a negative experience without saying who that person is. That was alarming to myself, and when Kat responded to the email, that was alarming to her as well. Actually, you know, she was supposed to go to this training with me, and turns out she didn't go. I went alone. And I don't know if you guys are aware of what happened, but I can definitely say what happened. It's very bizarre. And it was some Illuminati, satanic, whatever. And how do I know that? Well, I'm just willingly going to to the slaughterhouse, and this has been on so time.
I remember the experience. We sent an email, and I still have the email. Like I said to you on Monday, I'm a person that keeps records, so things that you sent to me that you would like to be preserved, and if you're making like a complaint against a training mission or the recommendations that were made to you, I do keep records of those. I definitely still have that, you know, and if it's okay with you, and if you would like me to, I can share it with Lisa. If not, it will just remain in
you could
files.
You could share it. You could share it with Lisa. That was
Okay.
when I had told Kat about it. She suggested that I definitely write down what my experience was. And after that, Kat had doubled checked on the other programs, the other trainings that Tamia had referred, and had flagged a few of them to not have good reviews about them either. So, you know, I don't know if it's just way too coincidental.
So I think what I hear you saying from that too, just like on that erosion of even trusting, like if anybody were to try to select somebody, like you, that's kind of what's jumping out, like trusting somebody to lead you into an experience that you thought would be a benefit that ended up to be, it sounds like more terrifying, you know, and then you felt like your information even your feedback was shared from like a personal information about you being shared versus more like an anonymous evaluation of the experience. Is that accurate? And I don't know what, because I was looking again before my time, so there's not a lot I know about it. But
well, real quick about this situation. This program was advertised to me to be for Black people only, and it was supposed to be about empowerment and building on, you know, whatever I was experiencing at the time. It would have been helpful for me in that way. And when I got there, it was in Manhattan. When I got there, I'm just walking to the building, and this guy is on the phone outside, and was like, "Yeah, this is some Illuminati satanic shit, and I'm just gonna go because my friend is making me go, but I already heard all about this shit, and I'm definitely not going through with it." And then I was listening to him loud on the phone, like, is he talking about the same place I'm talking about? That was just strange. And when I went up the stairs and up the elevator, he was there. And for a long story short, I'm looking around, and it's like all kind of people there. It's not just Black. It's also white and whatever. It's about, I don't know. It's kind of set up like it would be church, like how church is set up with pews, like the old school churches. But it's not pews. It's seat next to seat next to seat. However, it's rows and rows going like. There's 2 rows on the left side of the room, 2 rows on the right side, and then in the middle there's like, I don't know, maybe like 20 rows going back, but it's about maybe probably 8 rows, and then going all the way back it's about 30 seats if you want to say it like that. So the room easily filled up probably, I don't know, 200 people. And we all sitting down there, and I'm looking and observing everybody in the room, and they look like they are in, a lot of them, grave poverty, recovering drug addicts, and a few look like they may have been professionals, but that's not what was alarming. What was alarming is that they wouldn't let me go inside without answering the questions on the application, and if I chose not to answer some, I was not allowed to go in until I answered them. And these questions were very intrusive to know if you had a family member who died, what's your address, what's this, what's that. Very intrusive information that, to me, if I was to give them exactly how I'm feeling, anybody, I don't know who this paper is going to, like, you know, so I had to just put general stuff and check off general. And so to me, that application was to locate if you had a death in your family, or is what your reason for coming here, how low do you feel? And so now going in there and seeing what the population was, I still didn't think nothing of it, because the way that it started is a older Black woman who speaks very well. She's talking, she's starting, how do you say that? She's facilitating the whole thing. And then there's like there's about eight Black people, both men and women, who comes up there speaking, highly well dressed, cleaned up, and they're speaking, might not have been all Black. There was a couple of Spanish ones, and the way that they speak, they're all great public speakers. That's one thing that I noticed. One thing that I noticed, people always told me I was good at public speaking when I didn't think I was. Even I had to take a public speaking class, and in that class I learned that public speaking is one of the top 3 fears of all humankind. And when I noticed that it was above heights, that was crazy. So that's something I identified as being almost impossible, that after doing this mysterious program, this mysterious training, because they won't tell us what's going to happen in the training. They have no nothing. You just have to promise that you will go through it. And what that means is, this happened on Thursday for 4 hours. I don't know if it was from 6 to 10 or 7 to 11. This was from 7 to 11, and then the actual training would go from 8 in the morning to 8 p.m. at night, both Saturday, Sunday, and then you would have to come back that Tuesday from 7 to 11. So they're not telling you what the training is. all they're telling you is that after the training, you'll be able to speak like this. And I had problems with public speaking, and then somebody else to say, oh, well, I'm gay and my father didn't accept me. After this, I learned how to they appeal to all of people's weaknesses. And they spoke to it in a way that after this miracle training that you will no longer have those issues. But they won't tell us what it is. So going through it, they had told us to interact. And as we were interacting, I just felt weird about going to a stranger and then talking to them about what the hell I was going through. So I'm like, I gotta use the bathroom. I really did have to use the bathroom. But this was like just the perfect time to use the bathroom. So as I'm leaving, while they ordered us to mingle with people next to you and talk about what you're going through and just to practice this or practice that, you know, the thing is, all of those speakers that had came and spoke to and gave testimony to how their experience was when they went, even though they're not saying exactly what the program is, they're just saying what you gain after doing it. They turned into security guards for the place. All of them. Which means that they would monitor people interacting, make sure that people was interacting. So when I decided that I wanted to go to the bathroom, I was grabbed. This lady grabbed me. Like, where are you going? And I'm like, yo, shrug my shoulder, like, yo, get your hands off me. Like, I'm going to the bathroom. And then she's like, oh, okay, the bathroom's over there. So, fine, I go to the bathroom. This is maybe TMI, but I was kind of constipated a little bit. So, I was in there a little while. And I usually don't have that experience, so that was weird too, but whatever, that was what had happened. And so, you know, maybe I was in there too long. I had one of them come in and check on me. And they was like, oh, do you need anything? And I was like, actually, since they wanted to offer, like, would you mind getting me some water? So they went and they got me some water. I drank water. It was able to help with my situation. And then, you know, I'm in there now washing my hands, and the lady comes back in to check on me. So I really didn't like that. I really didn't like that. And I was just starting to feel like a little bit odd about this whole thing from the start of the application to that to this. And then now I'm like, well, I got to go through this shit. You know what I'm saying? I can't alarm people that, like, I'm feeling some type of way. So I just went back in there. And as I went back in there, the lady, the facilitator, started to speak to all the wonderful ways in which you're going to this and the blah and the blah. And so she needs to know from everybody who is going to do this program. And told everybody who is going to do it, no, first she started off with, this is strictly confidential. Once you complete this, you are not to tell anybody about it. So then she said, does everybody agree that you will not tell everybody? So some people was like, yeah, you know, you've been like, all right, oh, yeah, that goes with like any place that you go with, says here, stays here. That's how I took it. Maybe most people took it. And then she asked everybody to stand up. Stand up if you agree that everything said here will stay here. And everybody stood up. But while we all stood up, all those people who gave the testimony started going two on one side and two on the other side, started walking row to row, looking to see who was sitting down. So that started to feel very intimidating to me, because that was like a level of, like, they just literally functioned like foot soldiers in the moment. Like, you know, and then the next question was basically, okay, this is the timing in which this is going to go on, from 8 till 8 on Saturday, Sunday, blah, blah. That's the schedule. Does anybody here, does everybody agree to this schedule? So now most people stood up. Certain people didn't. And it was only a few that didn't. Even though I know I wasn't going to go with it, I knew that I was not going to be the one to sit down. So, but a few people was. And when they sat down, again, these foot soldiers come out and they go in row, fast. They moving fast, trying to see who's sitting down. And then they would stand over the person that's sitting down, which was 3 people. And so that lady, the facilitator, ended up embarrassing this woman who looked like she was a former drug addict or a current drug addict, and looking probably to get the hell off of drugs. And she just was saying like, oh, why won't you be able to do it? And then she's like, well, I just feel like that's a long time. And then she's convincing her and us that, well, you know, she was kind of talking down to her though. like real condescending, and it got real uncomfortable really, really fast. And you could tell the lady was getting uncomfortable, but she stood her ground by challenging her and said, well, if this is supposed to be something to empower me, why are you talking to me like that then? Because you can't tell me, you don't live my life to tell me how I should be able to do this, how I should be able to do that. So the lady had now toned herself all the way down. She apologized. She said, if that was the case, I wouldn't be doing this as long as I have, and blah, 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 blah. And then she asked another guy, sir, why do you not want to do this? She was more gentle to him. And that was the guy that was outside that said what this was. And he said, I just had a heart surgery, and my heart is beating at, I don't know what he said, but he seemed like, God bless you to have survived, or to even be sitting here, to have that, your heart beating where, I don't know how he explained it at the time, it was very abnormal, but he told her that he understands what she's doing. And he spoke to it in a certain kind of different way, that it's like, he felt how he felt personally, yet he's trying to convince everybody in the room that it's okay. That really buoyed my skin, but probably for the same reason that I'm standing when I really want to be sitting, you know. But she understood his condition as to be medical. But then we was given a break to go to have lunch, and I just never came back. I never came back. Or dinner, rather.
Wild. Woo.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think I would have the same reactions. Yeah, that's. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry that you went through that. It sounds. I don't know. It sounds terrifying. So, and I think I was asking that question of support because I want to and also just trying to see what would you like in supporting your time off puzzle. Like, what are some of the things that you need from Lena and I, or is this something that we could just support? Like with, I know we talked about studio space to create some sessions for you. The contract with the wellness folks, again, outside of this situation, was also up for consideration and conversation anyway. But what are there any other supports or recommendations that we can bridge so that you can take the time for your self-care? Even as we're working through some of the digital things that sort of started this conversation, as we're working towards making sure that there's safety, security with you and BOREALIS staff, how can we best support you in the way that you need us to do it, and not a way that is intrusive or feels kind of just feels wrong to your spirit? How do we do that for you? What do you need from us? Because I would be, based on the situation you just shared, I would probably have some I don't know about y'all. What do you need from us? And I'll shut up so that you can talk.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That was not an isolated situation, and to me it is at the center of a lot of this. And I'm just gonna be blunt and say it, because again, when people are after you, they are after you, and that's just the bottom line. So if this is not about me, if this is a BOREALIS thing, but I'm not sure as a team if I'm the only one just alarmed, if anybody else don't have the same experience, because they're not really, again, we're in philanthropy, but I've also used my experience being one of 1% of this and one of 2% of that, and being less than 1% of that. That's very unusual. And for me to take those numbers and sit here and expose these people and these things, and seeing as though the system does not want to go anywhere, look at how they're harming us and killing us even now in the midst of this whole uproar and national movement. for Black lives, you know, for the dignity of Black lives, for the fucking respect of Black lives. It's deeply rooted in white supremacy and the Klan and everything else, capitalism, everything else. But I think that Borealis should not take my experience as my experience. I think I'm feeling it at this heightened level because of all these other things that I have done outside of Borealis. But I think that we should not take those threats that were sent to Maggie as that they disappeared, but that they are to be infiltrated. And that is what people do. There's a digital infiltration and there's a physical infiltration. And a lot of the stuff that I just shared is like taking a big risk to say that I trust the two people that work with Tamia, that work with Borealis, that all of this stuff, you know, it's just not common. And again, a lot of people have extracted a lot of information from me, personal information, even down to Washington's number, you know, and I just feel like, especially when it comes to therapy, that if I'm to see a therapist, like when Ricky had referred a therapist to me, I had to sign paperwork before I could see her. And I know that to be true anywhere. It's like going to a doctor, but you just see the doctor without signing paperwork. It's just unusual. So that on top of all this other stuff, it just seemed like, well, whatever was supposed to happen to me was supposed to happen. Sooner. And one thing that I left out, and I could not put everything in the email for obviously a lot of reasons, but one thing that I want to say is that I just find it strange that I had just taken my car a couple weeks ago to the shop because I had a flat tire. I caught a flat tire on it twice. Both times I had driven on it to a tire shop, which wasn't far away, but it's still not a good thing to do. So that now caused my car to not go past, the first flat tire wouldn't go past 60 without, it couldn't go 260 without feeling the little rumble. And then by the second time I had the flat tire, it couldn't go past 40 without feeling that little rumble. And when I explained it to a mechanic, they told me, oh, that's just a rebalance, blah, blah, blah. So when I went to get my car fixed, they told me actually it's more than a rebalance, and that the rod and the axles and the this and the that. And I don't play with stuff like that because obviously that's safety. And I told them to go ahead and do it, you know, do the necessary work that needed to be done. And it was a lot of work, and they had inspected my car. I had paperwork on my car that my car was inspected, that all the money that I put in to get it fixed, you know, that the situation was fixed. When I drove it from there, it was driving like a brand new car. I couldn't be more happy. It's an old car, you know, very old, but nevertheless it looks, you know, pretty decent, and it was running good. So the fact that 2 days later I had the car parked up the next day, I didn't use it at all. But then the following day, which was this was around Mother's Day, that Monday, I didn't use it all day, but then I went to use it at the nighttime, and it didn't start off bad. But like once I went to go onto the highway, all of a sudden the wheel locks while I'm driving. And I didn't get on the highway yet. I was about to go on it, and the wheel locked while I was driving, and it started to do this jumbly thing, and I had quickly swifted off without even knowing how I glided to the side because the wheel was completely locked. And so, you know, that happened, and I was like, what the hell? The wheel had locked on me before, now while driving while I parked. So now I go to the wheel, and I quickly Google YouTube how to do it, which I already had done before, so I already kind of know but didn't really remember. And so when I did, it was like a 1.5 minute video to show me how to do it, so I quickly did it, which means you got to turn the car off, then you start it slow, and you turn it slow. You don't do it rough because you're so frantic you might, you know, harm the car. And easily, in seconds, it went back to normal. However, Now the car was doing the jerky. So I'm like saying to myself, how the hell they freaking fixed the car and then now it's this situation? But then when they showed me, and I had taken a small footage of, when they showed me what was wrong, I flipped out on them, because, and this is a reputable place that I've been going to for a long time, and they are backed by leases, they are backed by warranties, they are backed by stuff like that. So, you know, when they said that the area that they worked in was not the area there, but they did do an inspection on the vehicle, but they were claiming that the area that which they worked in that had nothing to do with this. But what was happening, I explained to them, if that was happening before, because they explained how the car goes into this or that during the time, I said, if this was happening before, I literally just seen you guys 2 days ago, I would have told you that that was an issue. I literally just seen you 2 days ago. The engine service soon light would have popped up. It did not pop up until this situation happened. And even the fact that the wheel locks while I'm driving, they've never heard of it. And this part looked like something that was like a wire that was like kind of like burnt off. I don't know what was going on with this, but when you see what happened to that wire, there's no way in hell that could have possibly happened overnight. I literally just fixed his car and put in a lot of money to fix his car. So these situations that's happening are not coincidental, not at all.
And Puzzle, do you have like, do you have like, instead of like, I don't know if you were by yourself in that instance, but do you have sort of like your own safety plan with like your girlfriend, or just, you know, you know, it's hard for me because I don't have a social worker, but when I hear your concerns, your you know, kind of like your, what do I do to feel safe, and how do we get support so that you do feel safe? That's where I'm struggling. Like, what do you need us to do? Because I think it's hard for us to hear, just as it's hard for you to talk about that. And it sounds like the tools, like from a space of, and I don't know, that last meeting example is just, I don't know what that was, but it sounds like the recommendations from like what has come from you for the organization did not work and are working. But how do we get you connected with someone where it could work, like for the conversations, or for, like you said, when the times come up when you really need to talk to somebody and then there's nobody to talk to, like how do we get you connected to that particular person? Does that make sense? That's my question. I know that was really deep.
Yeah, and something that comes to mind to add to that is that there are organizations that maybe you were connected with before that might know healing justice or healing practitioners, and you definitely don't have to share those with us. But as far as support, I think that is something that we could definitely support and maybe bring them on as like a contractor or something to help. But we definitely want you to find somebody that you're comfortable with, and so that it isn't us finding someone that might trigger or is too invasive or doesn't have a style or energy that matches with yours. So would you be interested in doing that search and finding somebody and then coming back to us, and then maybe we can allocate some funds to that as an accommodation?
Yeah, I think I'm done talking to people per se.
Okay.
Yeah, especially after this experience, you know, me not feeling safe is not a coincidence. This is very real.
Right.
I don't believe that, not after I have had this conversation, because I still was thinking that they have probably messed up something with the car, that they sat there and broke down for a whole hour the work that they've done on the car and how it's unrelated to what happened. And you know, I just taken it like, okay, maybe something was wrong with it, but then it's like still that thing that's like impossible, you know, that can happen. If it was like that before, I would know about it. That's not gonna happen like that overnight. And again, even people wanting to know specifically where I live, where do I go jogging, where do I go to the dentist, all these kind of questions, you know, wanting videos of my vehicle and having videos of my vehicle, and all of these type of things happening around the same time. And what can be done, I don't know. But I want to have a question for you guys. In the event that something happened to me, what would you guys do to avenge my death? God forbid.
What I can say to you is that I know you. I can speak to your character and the person that you were, and the person that you are. I truly believe that yes, you have been targeted. Yes, there is psychological warfare that's happening with these white nationalist groups. They're targeting activists. They're targeting people that have spoken out against injustice. The same thing with government officials and authorities, the police departments, the corrections officers. I know that you have a story to tell. I know that you know lots of information, and I know that you have lots of files, and you've gathered reports and information on the injustices and things that they have done. And I know that your family and also us here at Borealis will continue to uplift the work that you've done and the things that you have brought to light.
And puzzle for me, like I don't even want to think of those terms. I mean, I honestly don't. I think it's just so hard right now for, you know, what you're experiencing, what the Black community is experiencing, and just all that's in the world. I know I just had a death in my family and loss. Like, it's so much to process. So I don't want to even think about. I can't even let that enter the space. What I want to think about is what will make. Because you have so much, like Lena said, you've contributed so much not only to the organization, but to the places and spaces where you've been an advocate. Like, what can we do to make you feel safe, and what will offer that additional layer of protection for you? Like, is there anything where we could wrap around you to make sure that you are, you know, feeling safer in some way than you're feeling like in this very moment? That's how I like to think. It's hard for me to think about
possibility that we don't want to believe is a possibility, even though all of us at this point are on high, you know, we're all hyper vigilant right now. We're all running on fumes and in overdrive and can't sleep and feel like at any day we can be a target. And it became very clear with what's happened recently, what's been happening all along, but now the hyper visibility of it with surveillance, which can be good and also bad because we're being surveilled. It's a reality that we don't want to think about, and it's.
But I mean, in terms of like the loss of value of puzzle, like she was saying, like avenging her legacy. That's something any conversation puzzle for me means that we are valuing you here. That, like, I think about any visions of losing you to anything else, and I want to make sure that there's a layer for what is possible for us to be able to protect whatever that looks like for you in the way that you need it. I'm not interested in like Lena said, just like assigning someone that we think or heard that works. Like, what are the ways that we can offer that additional protection or pay for things that might work for you? I know the studio time we talked about, check, we could do that. But what are those additional ways that we can provide that?
Well, I was thinking I was thinking 3 things. One is a copy of my HR file. 2, I was thinking digital security, because I don't know if it's the MacBook, I don't know if it's my phones, I don't know what it is. I have already downloaded anti-spyware on my phone, my personal phone. I'm trying to deal with this new phone that I had gotten from BOREALIS, but I have to just put my information in it. It's not registered for whatever reason, but to put the spyware on there. But very few people have that number right now. But also, because as I was doing my own research, as this has happened, they say you got to put anti-spy, you got to put malware, and you also got to put microphone blockers and camera blockers, and there's a whole lot of shit. And once I downloaded one of the apps, it had already shot me to the fact that I was being tracked like a motherfucker by a lot of these apps, tracking me of where I am and what apps I'm using, and having a VPN to protect my location. These things, are going to cost. And I was also thinking to have cameras inside of my apartment. One I had bought for the peephole, but I wanted to have some basically surrounding. There's a fire escape, I wanted it there, and also for my vehicle, and I also want to not walk nowhere without a body camera.
And so are those things that you're setting up for security? And I literally just learned yesterday that those the body camera, that you could use your cell phone and use those auto box phones. There's mechanisms to use those in body cams because you're out and about. But in terms of all that you've listed here, are those things that you're currently pursuing for your own personal safety of your your home, and from what you're looking for safety in terms of the BOREALIS, in terms of
I had already started again, because I sent it out yesterday. I spoke to Kat and both Kat and Jerry real briefly, but I have to obviously as well in this process dealing with the past shit that I'm dealing with, but now dealing with the present shit, to guard my mind at more than ever before. So I'm trying to stay strong through this, and with that, it's people want you to be okay, and I'm okay, but am I not really okay considering everything that I just shared? But it's the impression that I give that I'm okay makes people feel like it's not really urgent. And I'm not saying that nobody's feeling like it's not really urgent. Everybody else have other priorities. And I did wait around both yesterday and today to hear from maybe Palante or whatever the case may be, seeing as though, digital is an issue and it is a breach, but I couldn't wait. So yeah, I did go ahead and download a lot of these free applications. I did go and buy a camera for the peephole, and I just thought of all these other things right now, because as I just shared in a way that I don't think I was able to share, that it makes the whole picture, because I knew not to put certain things in an email. That email is not safe. It can go to somebody who's watching me and after me, and they see everything that I know about. I would not put all of that, but that's why I have to say it in the way that I have to say it, in a way that if it happens, it's happening. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And at the best for my ability is that I alarm people, and whether they want to believe it or not, they will have a record of what I want them to do, or what I would like them to do, rather. And that's it.
I know I discussed with Maki before she left the use of VPNs. I actually have that at home, and I talked about expanding that so that we had a network for the entire organization. So yeah, I will check with Danny and the interim management team about that. Because I think, given the work that we all do, and given the work that Borealis does, and the threats we've received before, it would make sense for us to include an additional security layer or security measure.
Yeah. Again, that I'm saying what I'm saying about myself, but regardless of if we're actual abolition or not, we are a representation of what traditional philanthropy is not, and partially the reason why we don't get big funding, and partially the reason why we were already targeted. So yeah, I think that everything that I just said, as far as the digital part of it, as far as making sure all staff has spyware, making sure all staff has the top level spyware, as well as malware virus, as well as the virus cleanup tool. That is not enough to have those two. I read that you actually have to clean up whatever was left, because there'd be invisible apps that you can't even see, and then that they do, what you just said, Lena, the VPN for the protection of the location for both their Macs and their phones.
Yeah, my VPN covers all the laptops in my house and all of the cell phones as well. So, yeah, I highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then I know we're a little over time, but Puzzle, would it be, so I think we have a list of some of the things you just mentioned in regards to like malware, spyware, VPN. You want a copy of your HR file, looking into like digital security. And I think the other things then for consideration would be like, what else do you need in sort of Borealis to support you with? Including like, I know you said you're done with people, but are there other supports, things that you identified that could be supportive of you in your space that is not like sort of suggested or pushed to you from the organization? And then I think my other question for you is, I know you're out until mid-June or end of June. Do you also need to like revisit? Do you feel safer like coming back into the organization at the time? And is that something that we need to look at, like in terms of extending time for you, or what makes you feel safer, or returning sooner, like either or? So you don't have to answer that right now, but just sort of like in what is still to be determined and still to be like determined for what needs you need, what supports that Borealis can provide for your needs. Does that make sense? That was really jumbling. Sorry, I haven't had coffee this morning.
No, that's fine. I hope you do get yourself some sleep as well, as that's definitely important.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, that's something that I have to definitely revisit, because the way that I'm feeling now is very uncertain, and I hate having that feeling. I hate that all of this had occurred the way that it did, and around those services that I would feel like it was helpful, but then it wouldn't be, and then it was, and then it wouldn't be, and then I wish it would have just been, right? But the other thing is, what it would support other than, I don't know, if you guys would be willing to support with the whole camera setup, because even the fact that I feel like I gotta live the rest of my life now, not the rest of my life, hopefully not, hopefully this blows over and I get some clarity at some point in time, but that I now feel like I have to walk out with a body camera so that if anything happened, whoever did it, it's recorded. And how I feel like, like I understood the risk that I was taking when I was taking it. Did I know it'd be to this level? Crazy. No, why should it? Why should it be? What I expose is completely wrong. If y'all looking for criminals, there you go. But it's not about criminals, as we have seen plastered on the TV, that the cops are the ones breaking into stuff, that white people are the ones burning down stuff and spray painting Black Lives Matter. Yet we're getting blamed for it. I just recently seen a video of this white woman telling the cops that the people were looting when they sent the civilians to do the job. Now she's telling the cops that the people are looting, and then the cops is locking up the business owners, and she's yelling at them like, "That's not the looters. You're letting the looters get away," And it's like they're Black business owners, and they're telling her to shut up. We got who we need, and she just keep going off like, I'm telling you, that's not the looters. They're getting away, So it's like blatant and obvious videos out there of white nationalists with bow and arrows. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, they're here. They're in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Center. It's been absolutely, which is why Lane and I. Terrifying. That's why we're both sleep deprived. It's happening. It doesn't hit the news what's going on here.
See?
And I don't even want to stress you out or traumatize you with any of the stuff that we're sort of personally experiencing in the Black community and as Black people in this area. It's just. I don't even want to talk about it because it's hard for me to talk about.
Yeah, no, don't. No, it's fine.
It's just like,
I get it.
It's like 1960s. It's
horrible. It's horrible.
So, thank you for that puzzle, and we hear you. That's why I'm like, I hear you. I feel every ounce of your pain as a Black person in this world. I feel every ounce of your pain of the advocacy that you and the systems that you're also speaking against, and people that you're speaking for that don't have the voice at the table. I hear that. And with all that you're holding, that's where I'm like, how do we support you? So I think we can check into some of the things that we, and I also want to pause too, not to rush, like, we don't need like a full list right now. You may just need some space to sort of think about things, but then to circle back, with Lena, maybe on some of the things that you that may develop. But looking at digital, I think those can be immediate. I'm already in conversation with, help me out with the name, Lena. Palante, thank you. I was going to say Caliente. Palante on some of the things you highlighted regarding digital security, and then I also just asked the questions on these additional things as well. The copy of the HR file, we can, Lane and I can talk about that and get that to you. The request for like the additional camera setup, we do, just so you know, Puzzle, since Ricky's departure and other infrastructure changes here, there's now like a internet management team. So this is a team comprised of like program staff.
We talked about it.
Okay, good. Okay, sorry, I don't want to bore you.
That's okay.
Bore you to death with stories. So at any rate, so this consideration for like these resources we would need to, from the current process we have, was going for them to approve them. And then if you have like ideas of cost or the type of equipment, I think that's helpful too, like what you're looking for, because that will probably be the next question. And then maybe just when you have time, maybe sharing that with Lena, if that's a process that works.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if they're like on Amazon or is there another site, Puzzle, that like these resources that you're looking at would be easily available for us to order. Does that sound reasonable? Okay. And then just thinking of other things in terms of support for times of crisis and fear and uncertainty. Like, is that an individual? Is that a contact, how do we support you with that? And just be clear, is that something you want us to suggest for you or help you find, or is that something you will say, hey, I found somebody who kind of speaks my language that understands, and I would like BOREALIS to support me with this by paying, we'll pay the bill or whatever that looks like. And I know that may take a longer time to really determine who you can trust for that sort of support.
Yeah, it's only one guy that I was thinking about, because honestly I don't want to go out here and have this. It's going to be very difficult to be vetting people at this time and all that I feel. Right. But there's definitely, when I was working at Women's Prison Association, and there was, and I say this to say at the time that I had to get support services from him, and there was somebody that was referred to me, and I have to see if that person still exists. But I know that I have their name, and that they was referred because they work strictly with people who are formerly incarcerated. And I think at this point, I need somebody who is experienced, and I don't want to have to teach anybody what it's like. I don't want to have to overexert energy. I want somebody to be able to talk with me about this whole post-traumatic slave syndrome, because essentially that's what it is. Because especially you come home and you can't be utilized as nothing else but your formerly incarcerated experience. It's like I really want to just get to a point where, especially after I already said that, regardless of how I felt about the therapy session being some type of conspiracy theory, maybe, perhaps, hopefully not. But there's a lot of reason to point to, but it was helpful in locating where I am having those challenges in the past, being rated the lowest, is what I absolutely have to let go of to move forward. So that has to come from somebody who is used to working with strictly people in my situation.
Right, and I just think that's so important to find somebody who can relate to the experience, and that you don't have to sort of repeat and sometimes be re-traumatized by having to repeat things that folks don't understand. So you'll let us know about that, like in terms of if you reach out to see if he's still available, and then let us know like if yes is the answer to that, then how can we support that or handle like the billing piece of it as we've done in the past. You'll let us know when that's possible? Yeah,
I know he has LMSW. He's not like a therapist, and I've had more positive experience with social workers rather than therapists. But the last thing, just to close out that, when this is what they do to us, so if we don't support each other in the way that we need to be supported, they will continue to do this to us, and that's why they have all that. They have my testimony and record. They know how powerful I am. It's just that I didn't, because I was blinded by all my trauma. And now that I'm figuring out, and the more they try to attack me and censor me, and is the more I'm like, holy shit. Like I had to write what I put in there. Like I'm 1% of this, 2%. I had to figure that out. I did not know that up until recently. And why that makes me the threat that I am.
Thank you. I appreciate that also, and I think that's why I think like it speaks to just like those supports have to be the right sort of people for the experience.
Yeah, and with the last thing on the right support, what is the deal with Tamia?
Right now, she is actually on a medical leave at this time. So she's not working. She's out until, it was right. I actually think I don't have the dates in front of me, but I think it's at the end of June as well. End of June, maybe early part of July. Yeah, so she's on medical leave right now.
Yeah, I didn't mean like that. I mean like just towards everything that I had shared about my
about that experience with the
everything.
Yeah, there's no in terms of like any like action, is that what you're talking about? Like any like we don't have any sort of formalized processes, period. I think that's something Lane and I have been working on. There's been some other struggles with that. I heard your comments for the first time today. Like, I wasn't aware, Puzzle, from your experience of any particular sort of assignment, like with any situation, if that makes sense. So this is the first I'm hearing about anything that was perceived like negatively with Tamia. I wrote down like Tamia, your comments there. I wrote your comments about Kathleen. I wrote your comments about Dee, and then I just wrote your comments about what you experienced, what you shared with us in October.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't speak to any like action at this time because I really am focusing on you. But those are things that I think Lane and I will need to talk about later on.
Yeah.
But I just want to, like, in terms of this call, just want to walk away with like, what is our next plan? So because we kind of talked about the delivery of like not using email.
Yeah, I got that. That's definitely.
Yeah, it's temporarily suspended, and that's because we're kind of looking at the things that you kind of brought to the attention. If we do restore it, Puzzle, then it would just be under the terms of that anything will need to be reviewed, with CAT before sending out something more broadly. I think communication with internal staff might be different, but still we're just vetting it before it's sent out.
So this staff internally delete it from the sent message?
No. It's not. No, it's just that we're looking at. We have your email account frozen. We're kind of working with Plenty on some of those digital security things that you brought up in your email.
So I wouldn't, in this moment, be able to receive emails?
Not at this time, but we can unpause it. I just have it paused so we can have this conversation. We can unpause it. If unpause or when unpause, it would just be like, as we agreed, as Lena stated, we are asking that you, first of all, I would like that you not even engage with email just because I want you to heal. If you do engage with email, it's sort of those like mass communications that would go out, to send it to CAT first before sending it out to internal and external staff. Is that what you understood in terms of what Lena said initially?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I think the other part is just the resources that you said that you needed for your personal protection, and then also the digital protection. That's another thing I can go back to them regarding the malware, spyware, VPN, and just overall digital security for not only your account, for Borealis, but just our accounts and also our social media and financial accounts, and because we have a lot, and we have a lot of different things moving just to make sure that everything is secure at each place.
Yeah, and the last thing is, basically Tamia is the vice president, so she obviously has access to my HR file, and
He doesn't.
She does not.
He does not, no. So my role came in it's my 8th week. That structure changed, so the only people that have access to HR are technically Lena and myself actually right now. It's just, we're functioning as HR.
Okay.
And so the information is confidential in terms of what can be shared. There would have to be a request that will come to us first.
Okay.
For anybody to access anything. At this point, there is nothing or no one that's asking any questions about your information in the file. And I'll be honest, in this particular moment, I don't even know what's in there, but we will make sure, because you requested it, and we are under legal obligation to provide that to you. We'll figure out a way to get that to you as soon as possible.
All right, and the other thing is, how soon would Palante be reaching out to me to, like, for instance, like, I do feel like, even though we're having this conversation again, that imagine if everything that I said is absolutely true. Imagine if people are infiltrating into our organization. Imagine that this conversation that we just had is not confidential at all. and that it has gone to the people, everybody mentioned in here. Because if this is to the level of what I say it is and what I feel it is, what I feel for it to be, then that's also equally troubling. I wanted to know if there was a way digitally to swift that out. I know that they can track the apps and tell you which app has been this and has been that. I want to know if those apps can track to a person.
Yeah, and so I will tell you, right now the way that so the digital support is set up, the primary contact for that is Danny Kaye. And so he would, like, even for this issue, would serve as the primary contact and then share information out to the staff and sort of what those, kind of like what's reported to him. So I don't know the specific process, like for the questions that you're asking, but I think Danny will share, instead of it like each of us individually going to them, he will sort of share the information. And as you've probably seen, he's been trying to give tips and tools for even like the challenges with Zoom that folks experienced a couple of weeks ago, and making sure, like you said, that all the apps and things, like how is that safety also ensured with those other things that we use? And that's a good, I mean, when you brought that email, that's exactly like we use Basecamp, we use Slack, we use Asana, we use a lot of different supports, and all of those secure at these particular moments. So I can't speak specifically to your questions regarding the process. I can let you know that the teams have been alerted, and I think are trying to kind of security check or look at all of those possibilities and apps and social media that we utilize. And so we can kind of report it back to you what that looks like, and then if there's more questions from there, can try to ask something more specifically. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Okay, good. And then, Puzzle, the other thing I have wrote down is just you will let us know in terms of who can you support you and what you find out from the LSW that you mentioned, and just to let us know who that is, and if there's any financial support that's needed that we can help with. And then we'll look at and also just the list again, if you have this like type of cameras and that kind of setup, if you have an idea of what the costs look like, and what specifically if you have like I don't know, security, I don't know anything else that like the traditional like Ring and all those kinds of things. But if you have an idea of cost and what type of system, if you could also get that to us. I can't answer that it's like a yes right now, but it's something that we can, if we have the numbers and say this is what would make her feel safe, then providing that to the animal management team in CAVA.
Okay.
What else what else is there? Does that, Lena, do you have any input on those like next steps for us, or?
No, I think you covered it all, unless there's something else that we're missing, Puzzle.
No, you guys just mentioned outside of the studio, I can't remember if there was something else outside of the digital stuff. Did you say the studio was a go, or?
I think, Lena, you did the studio for Puzzle before. I know that, could you extend, how many, I don't know what the number of sessions that were provided before?
Actually, that was something that Tanika handled, but I do have access to that information. Let me pull it up and see.
But yeah, that's Puzzle, but I think we can figure out like what area it'll, like in terms of the budget piece.
Okay. And just last thing, obviously, we've been on this call for a very long time, and I really appreciate you guys really sincerely taking the time to understand everything, because that, I can't tell you, it feels even just to have said all this, and even the support that's going to come into place is like a mountain just lifted off my brain, which is essentially what I need to just, move forward and get to a place of clarity. But I just wanted to be assured. I know you already said that my files are confidential, but that also this conversation is confidential as well.
Absolutely. And the only thing we would share from this conversation, Puzzle, is really just like what your requests are, like the malware, like the things you've identified for digital security. We would just be communicating that, not necessarily communicating who and when we receive those requests.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yep.
But just saying, hey, we need to check these things as well. If there's any other information that you think we need to share, let us know. But other than that, it would just be confidential based on this conversation.
Nope.
And the three of us being in it.
That's all. I think, I definitely follow you guys' instructions if I ever feel crazy like that, which the whole purpose of that was, again, feeling like I needed to get in contact with organizations and feeling isolated and all this stuff. And so, it's already out there. I just wanted to be clear, like, in the event that something was to happen to me, that people would, do the investigation and make sure that all the work I did would be presented, as well as I'm going to try to promote a lot of it now, because all they're doing is letting me know how much. But then it's like, I also want to probably just give it a break too, but then I don't, so I don't really know,
Right, and I think sometimes that might come day to day. If I'm, and I think you just have to like sort of balance what works for you, but then when you just need to step back, whatever we can do to support like your work and your space. Like I said, there's some things that we're trying to think about future forward to do that within the organization. I don't have the strategy and those platforms laid out, but I know Lena and I have talked about it. So just so you know, kind of like what sort of things to look forward to that have not yet been created, and also just the value of your voice, in the space, and the work that you're doing outside of Borealis and for Borealis is also very valuable. So that's, wanting you to understand that, and also wanting you to understand we hear you, and we would definitely want to try to provide whatever best supports you in the way that you need it, and not in the way that it sounds like things that have happened before. So, and sometimes it just takes time. I think it's just like conversation, like Lena said, if we need to talk about it again, or you find that there's something else that works well and we could consider, I think it's just continuing that dialogue. But I do want you to, like, in terms of the work piece of it, kind of, I'm burdening you, like I said, and that's my word, I'm burdening you from thinking about anything related to Borealis in terms of the actual work. And I think we have a process that we know now for communication. So communicating messaging. And so once, and I haven't checked email in a while on the call, once Valente and Danny give approval that like it's okay, like to turn like your email back on, or they check this, they check that. I think if we would turn it back on, it's just like with that agreement that the three of us agree that communication will be better through CAT or HR, and then minimizing just your usage at all until you return in June, if that makes sense.
What you mean minimizing my usage?
Of email.
For me to minimize my email.
Like, so you're not like checking, how you like, I'm just going to pick an email, and then you see something that's work related that might come up.
Okay, no.
And sometimes people, I know I do it on vacation, and I feel compelled to answer it. I want you just not to be able to even like think about anything that's perceived as work during this time that you're supposed to be taking the time to heal. Kind of like what we talked about in May.
Okay, all right.
And then sending, like, if you want to send out a larger email or, emailed outside of the organization. I think Lena talked about the process of sending it to CAN and sending it to HR first before it goes out to other folks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that what we agreed on? I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
Puzzle, we're here. You have my phone number too. I'm in the, if you have your work phone, we're in the text message and.
But I changed my number too, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
That's why I had sent.
I think I have it. Did you give it to?
Danny had literally gave it to me in the morning after this had happened, and the first email said.
Danny sent out a text.
Oh, he
Yeah.
did. Oh,
He
he
sent
did.
out a mass text at everyone to save the new number.
Yep, I
Okay.
got it.
Oh, I
you
didn't get
gave it
that.
to me last time, so I had it.
I didn't get that for whatever reason.
Oh, because it's your number.
Oh.
We sent it out to the rest of the staff so that they can update your work number.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay then. Thank you guys so much.
And
Okay. Well, I think we have our next steps here. So, let us know if there's anything else. Or let me know, Puzzle and Lena, if there's anything else after the call that you need. So, just let me know.
Okay. All right.
yeah, and I just shared my personal phone number with you for if there's something that comes up that's like after 4 o'clock. After 4 or 5 o'clock is when we usually stop checking my work phone. So if there's something that comes up, you can just text to my personal phone.
Okay.
Text or call.
All right. Thanks so much, Lena. And Lisa
welcome.
as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Puzzle.
All
All
right.
right, thank you.
All right.
So have a good weekend.
You too.
Yeah.
In that war zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some sleep, you guys. All right.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Come on. If you come, you can see it from here.
I kneel my prayers I feel before I prepare a meal. I stare and still hope it ain't the last supper. My fears is real,
This
yeah,
is
you
hanging
laugh.
out on the
Buster
exhaust
had me
here.
at my steering wheel, almost crash sucker
so
into
that
a
through
cop
the
automobile.
girl,
Since they ain't write
kinda
no
cold and
reports, I'ma
stuff.
force they hand. Make them understand I ain't no running man. Out for the bag, fuck a son of Sam. Told my story, they thought I wanted glory. Tired of being nice, call me naughty. I'm bossing, I'm bawdy. No hush money, cruddy buddy never signed that. Corporate criminals, yeah, that's where your crime's at. Philanthropy, how you even define that? It's like snatch a chain, make you buy it back. Fire me, I fire back. I am a lion cat, giant chat. Nowhere I've been, nowhere I'm dying at, applying that. I'm in it to win it, we living, we sinning, forgiving for serenity. Fuck the wine, get the Hennessy, pour it out on my enemies. Hey, can you never feel your voice shake?
Are you behind on your credit card bills? Good, pick up the phone and start dialing. Is your landlord ready to evict you? Good, pick up the phone and start dialing. Does your girlfriend think you're a fucking worthless loser? Good, pick up the phone and start dialing. I want you to deal with your problems by becoming rich.
I just like the sound of it.
Facing eviction, my landlord tripping. People all in my business, but they won't help fix it. Not problems, and my bitch ain't one. If I got guapa, now she never think I'm a bum. Got cards and credit, can't pay it off with debit. Lost my job, pandemic, now I'm ready to set it. They bury the seed, no need to thank me. Just met up with Cleo, Stony, Frankie. Don't push me at the edge, need the bread. Before I go back to the streets, be on the beats instead, release my head. Yup, stacking my thoughts and trying to get richer than my bosses. Never snitch when my back's against the wall. Cop out for a fraction of course, stand tall, endure for all. Endurance, win, lose, draw, score. I'm all in. Chest kill, forced to pop, drove off the lot, foreign. Red seats worn in, nigga keep snoring.